Sam.
Okay.
Miami Dolphins 70.
How much?
70. Just this week.
Yeah.
Broncos 20.
Most points scored since 1966. Third most ever, and they pass up the opportunity to kick a field goal and make it the most ever.
The box score looks fake.
Yeah.
I mean, it started with Tyreek Hill wide open, weaving through the defense for a 54. Not even weaving, just kind of running straight, actually. 54-yard touchdown. And then things got worse for the Denver Broncos.
Who was it? He ran around the Broncos safety, which I think was probably, I'm just checking the number to make sure it is before I write him off. No, it was Elijah Campbell. He ran around, sorry, that's Dolphin safety. Kareem Jackson. That's who I thought it was. So Kareem Jackson, pretty long in the tooth, relatively old as players go these days. He ran all the way around Kareem Jackson in the kind of way that makes players retire. It's like that's the play when you're evaluating it personally on the film. You're like, I can't do this anymore. If that is possible to happen to me on the field, I no longer have a place on this field. Now look, it's Tyreek Hill. He can do that to a lot of players, but that was the kind of play that makes you think about where your life is going if you're a DB. And Kareem Jackson just let it happen right in front of him. And that was like the start of the floodgates. From that point on, remember we were talking last week about the way things got away from the Texans because they got in a hole early and it made everything more difficult and they had to. Is scoreboard pressure a thing that people talk about in football as well as rugby? But like the scoreboard starts getting away from you, right? And that changes the way you play. Like game flow, we talk about a lot with football, but scoreboard pressure is a term that you hear a lot in rugby. And this is what it felt like. Miami put up points quickly, early. The Broncos are trying to get that offense together and make it all function and yada, yada. And now it's like 21-10, the 2-minute warning, and then it just completely spirals out of control. And this happened a couple of times in this game. It's already bad, and then a couple of plays bounced the wrong way, and Miami, every time that happened, Miami just put a touchdown on the board. And now it's just like, 35-10 at the half, and you're like, oh, God, there's another half of this to go.
Then they scored another 35 in the second half.
Yeah.
Then to me, it just became, like, I'm not going to call the Broncos out, but it just looked like an effort thing, too. Like, literally everything that the Dolphins
they just
dialed
wanted
up
out of there.
Is wide open. I have never seen so much open green grass in an NFL football game. I've just never seen it. From a run game perspective, from a pass game perspective, the stats look fake. The Dolphins' rushing attack, they finished with 350 yards, on 43 carries. So they averaged 8.1 per carry on 43 carries. And I'm just looking at the overall stats that include a QB kneel and a couple fullback dives in there.
And
they're averaging about 9 yards a pop with their running backs.
And how many runs were on that final drive where they were just getting nothing, right? Like 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard just to end the game. That's counted in there as well. It was like
Chain with 203 yards on 18 carries. I mean, the Dolphins, their ability to just get to the edge and have their players in wide open space, the Dolphins deserve all the credit for this. But I have never seen a defense just not be able to even have an edge player in the run game as often as Denver did. Having all of their middle of the field coverage defenders just vacate and allowing the Dolphins running through green grass. I mean, it was as good as it was for the Dolphins, it was that bad for Denver in their defensive effort.
Yes, and that's the thing, the defensive effort. Denver's defense last year, really good. Like the thing that was helping do whatever they did last year was the defense. This year, it's like, okay, Sean Payton's come in, let's try and fix Russ. But like, did anybody pay attention to the defense? Because apparently it's fallen to rack and ruin. It was catastrophic. And every time like Miami got an advantage, they pressed it home immediately with a big score. Like this was a college game where the professionalism at the college level isn't there, and when things start to get out of control, they can get out of control quickly because effort does become an issue. You're like, we're getting stomped. Let's just pack it in and come back next week. That's kind of what happened in this game. Denver's defense legitimately looked like it just packed it in and gave up halfway through. Remember Urban Meyer, how much he got mocked for wanting 250? If we could just get 250 rushing yards and 250 passing yards in every game, That's the goal. That's what we're striving for. And everyone's like, you moron. Do you have any idea how much yardage that is, particularly on the ground? That's absurd. Miami did 350, 376, 350 rushing yards, 376 passing yards, and it could have been more. Like, they eased up at the end. Mike White played in the game. And, the run game at the end, they literally passed up points just trying to get out of the game.
Mike White also had a 68-yard touchdown to Robbie Chosen. Robbie comes in, formerly Robbie Anderson, also formerly Robbie Anderson, with a different
Chosen Anderson.
And Chosen Anderson. Yeah. Now Robbie Chosen is averaging 68 yards per catch. Does he have any other catches this year?
I don't know.
Anyway, it was ugly.
Yeah,
and there was no Jalen Waddle.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, Miami was down one of his most important players.
Jalen Waddle. So Tua.
It was summed up by this tweet from somebody called Danny Drip Marino. The Broncos traded a first and a second round pick for a coach who just got beat by 50 by their former ball boy. That's Mike McDaniel.
That's Mike McDaniel. That's
Andrew Hawkins.
Good analysis.
Tweeted out that I had a big long tweet about this, but Mike McDaniel grew up in Denver, used to be a Broncos ball boy. They wouldn't even interview him when they had the head coaching vacancy for Hackett, right? In 2022. Didn't even want to take the McDaniel interview. It was probably a factor. I'm sure, the fact that Miami every time ruthlessly put up a touchdown, any opportunity was given in this game, probably played into it. And I also think, like late in the game, when they didn't go for the record, I don't know if that I say patronizing, you guys say patronizing. That was probably part of it, right? Like, what's the most painful thing that could happen in Denver right now? Is it us setting a record against them, or is it us going, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to ease up. I'm not going to do it to you. I wouldn't do that to you. I'm going to be nice and not put up 73. Just leave it at 70, a nice round 70.
I mean, there used to be times where people got upset about teams running it up or anything. It's just, you're playing football.
Well, the running it up thing. I mean, the running it up thing happened before that. They hit a couple
play action shot. I mean, some of them were just runs that were wide open.
Yes.
Other ones, they took a deep shot with Mike White. Like, who cares?
Right. Good. No, but like, I mean, Patrick Mahomes was off the field like 4 minutes to go in the third quarter or whatever. Like, Miami potentially could have pulled some starters way before they did. But anyway, the running it up thing wouldn't have been the last drive. They did basically what you do, which is let's send a run to nowhere and just 1 yard, 0 yards, whatever. They should have kicked the field goal. I mean, they were there they hadn't taken aggressive, shots to get into this extra point scoring position. They just happened to be again set up in an obvious field goal situation. At that point, you kick the field goal, you take your NFL record, and you walk off into the sunset.
They didn't do it.
Instead, they took a kneel and turned the ball over and down. It's not like that ended the game.
Some other numbers just to sum up this game here.
Just to rub it in.
Tua finishes with a passer rating of 155.8. That was second on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
In this game.
Great Mike White.
Because Mike White had the perfect 158.3. Tua finishes. So Tua's numbers are great, obviously. 23 for 26 for 309, 4 touchdowns, no picks. But as a team, because you add Mike White in there, the Dolphins were 25 for 28 for 376. They had 5 touchdowns and 3 incompletions. They didn't get sacked. Averaged 13.4 yards per attempt. I don't know if every week there's like a PFF grade that we have to defend till the end. I don't know if people are going to expect Tua to have like a 99.9 PFF grade. That's not exactly how the PFF grades work, even though he's got a near perfect stat line. You basically start as average, right? And then you add value with the throws that you make. And so Tua throwing an underhand screen to Raheem Mostert, even though that gives you all the feels and makes the stat line look great, that's not going to add to the mix. Tua played a very good game, obviously.
Was that the no-look?
Was it a no-look?
Did we give him bonus points for the no-look?
No.
It was like, yoink.
No.
It was like a Magic Johnson thing.
I mean, Tua was throwing, he was doing his usual thing, anticipation, into green grass. Tua played a very good game. It doesn't mean it's going to be the greatest PFF grade of all time.
The halftime stats for Tua are potentially more interesting than the overall one. Halftime, 16 of 16. That's 100% completion rate, in case you needed help. 206, 2 touchdowns, a 158.3 perfect passer rating, and a 35-10 lead at the half.
Yeah, this was... the box score looks fake. regular stats, advanced stats. It all looks fake.
Did you?
But it's a full team effort for Miami and a full team effort of terrible from the Denver Broncos. Lost in this whole mix is it wasn't Russ's fault.
Yeah, not
it wasn't
at all.
Russell Wilson's fault. He actually threw the ball pretty well overall.
Even he had a touchdown late, relatively late on when they're just trying to put points on the board to make it not as embarrassing as it was. Negated by an illegal shift. Now, it's one of those ones where illegal shift is always.
You're going to break down an illegal shift in the 70
I'm just saying
to 20
potentially
game.
it's on the quarterback a little bit, Like the receiver's moving around, but there are some plays where the quarterback needs to pay attention. There was another one, though, in last night's game where it wasn't on the quarterback. At some point, the receiver has to stop moving. Anyway, Russ maybe could have seen that and prevented it. A touchdown comes off the board, and then Russ misses a little bit. So it's not like Russ was perfect, but no, this was not his fault whatsoever. This was the defense just capitulating.
And since we're in week 3 victory laps, Marvin Mims has a 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and
a big play.
Yeah, another 38-yarder in there.
Guy's
73.
averaging 50 yards a touch, and yet we still can't get him on the field more.
Yeah, I think the sad thing for Denver is Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Marvin Mims, it's starting to come together offensively, getting your weapons and everything, but the defense was atrocious.
15 snaps he played again. It's absurd.
Yeah.
Guy's averaging 50 yards every time he touches the ball.
We got to move on.
And he's only just out-snapping little Jordan Humphrey now.